Hey, can I ask you something? If someone tells you we can talk, but only on their terms, is that really an offer to talk? Because on February 26th, 2026, North Korea just wrapped up its Ninth Workers' Party Congress. And Kim Jong Un said something that made the whole world lean in. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, if the US respects our current status and drops its hostile policy, there's no reason we can't get along. And the White House responded the very next day. Trump, they said, is open to talking with Kim without any preconditions. Sounds promising, right? But hold on. Look closer at Kim's exact words. Respecting our current status. That phrase right there? That's the whole game. Because a current status isn't just diplomatic jargon. In North Korea's language, it means one very specific thing. Nuclear-armed state. Full stop. So the question isn't whether the door is open. The door is open. The question is, what's written on the handle? And that handle says nuclear recognition. And while Kim was talking peace, he was simultaneously announcing plans to expand nuclear weapons. More warheads, stronger ICBMs, AI-guided drones, underwater launchers. Think tank SIPRI estimates North Korea already has around 50 warheads, and enough fissile material to build 40 more. That's not a small stockpile. In South Korea, Kim called them the most hostile enemy and ruled out any talks. Zero. Done. South Korea is simply excluded from the conversation. This move has a name. South Korean analysts call it Tongmi Bongnam. Deal directly with Washington, freeze out Seoul. Classic North Korean playbook. And here's the wild timing detail. Trump is visiting China from March 31st to April 2nd. Some experts are already whispering, could a Trump-Kim summit happen around that trip? Interestingly, Trump didn't mention North Korea once in his State of the Union address. Not once. That silence may be strategic, maybe not. Hard to say. So we have two leaders, both saying they're open to talking, but one is demanding nuclear recognition as the price of entry. Does that sound familiar to you? Here's your first question to chew on. What exactly is current status? And why does recognizing it change everything about the negotiation? Let's find out. Okay, so here's where it gets interesting. There's a difference between having nuclear weapons and being an official nuclear weapon state. These are not the same thing. Under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, the NPT, the only recognized nuclear weapon states are 5: US, Russia, UK, France, China. That's it. Club of 5. Why those 5? Because they had nuclear weapons before January 1st, 1967. That date is literally written into the treaty. Everyone after that date, not recognized. North Korea clearly has nuclear weapons. We know this. They've tested 6 times. But legally, officially, they're not a recognized nuclear weapon state. Big difference. So when Kim says, respect our current status, he's essentially asking, treat us like we're in that club of 5. Change the frame of the negotiation itself. And here's why that matters enormously. If the US accepts North Korea's current status, the negotiation shifts from you must give up nukes to let's manage nukes together. That's the shift from denuclearization talks to arms control talks. And that, my friend, is a fundamentally different world. Think about it this way. If someone breaks into your house and you later negotiate about how many rooms they get to keep, that's recognizing their right to be there. North Korea has been trying to legitimize not just we have nukes, but we have the right to have nukes. That's a very different legal and political claim. It also undermines the entire rationale for sanctions. If North Korea is a nuclear state with a right to nukes, why are they sanctioned? The logic collapses. Now here's a question that might make you pause. Is it possible to negotiate arms control with North Korea without officially recognizing their nuclear status? Some experts say yes. You can talk about managing risk without giving legal recognition. Others say you can't have a real deal without naming what you're dealing with. The US has actually sent mixed signals here. In 2022, a senior US official mentioned arms control talks. The next day, the White House said, policy hasn't changed. So, and think about this. What North Korea wants isn't just we have nukes. They want we have the right to have nukes. Does that distinction change how you see this? Now, none of this happened overnight. North Korea's nuclear story goes back decades, and understanding it changes everything about how you read today's headlines. Back in 1985, North Korea actually signed the NPT. They joined the International Non-Proliferation Club. They agreed, no nukes. That was the promise. But in 1992, when IAEA inspectors showed up to verify, something didn't add up. The plutonium North Korea declared didn't match the evidence. Inspectors smelled a cover-up. North Korea refused access to two sites. The IAEA escalated. In 1993, North Korea announced it was withdrawing from the NPT. The world was shocked. Then came the 1994 Agreed Framework. The U.S. offered light water reactors for energy. North Korea froze its plutonium program. It looked like a deal, almost worked. But in 2002, the U.S. discovered North Korea had been secretly pursuing uranium enrichment on the side. The deal was dead. Inspectors were expelled. The freeze was over. In January 2003, North Korea formally withdrew from the NPT. 6 months later, the six-party talks began. US, China, Russia, Japan, South, and North Korea, all at the table. The talks produced a 2005 joint statement. North Korea committed to abandoning all nuclear weapons. There was hope. Champagne wasn't quite popped, but people were optimistic. Then, first nuclear test, 2006. Second test, 2009. The six-party talks collapsed in 2008 and never resumed. Every diplomatic window slammed shut, one by one. 2013 was a turning point. North Korea didn't just test a bomb. They passed a law declaring themselves a self-defensive nuclear weapon state. Law. On the books. That same year, they added it to the Workers' Party rules. In 2016, the fifth and sixth nuclear tests. Each time the sanctions got heavier, the program got bigger. Then 2022, a massive step. North Korea released a detailed nuclear forces law. It specified when they can use nukes, who commands them, even automatic retaliatory strikes. And in 2023, they put the nuclear program into their constitution. Not just a law, the constitution. You can't legally reverse your own constitution easily. So here's the pattern. What started as a negotiating chip became state policy, then domestic law, then constitutional identity. This isn't reversible with a phone call. For North Korea now, denuclearization isn't just a policy question. It's existential. Giving up nukes means questioning the legitimacy of the entire Kim regime's identity. Now, here's a question you might have. What about India and Pakistan? They have nukes and nobody recognized them officially either, but they got kind of integrated. Why not North Korea? Great question. The India case is actually fascinating because it shows what a partial integration into the nuclear world looks like, and why North Korea can't replicate it. In 2008, the Nuclear Suppliers Group, 45 countries that control nuclear trade, made an exception for India. They allowed civil nuclear cooperation despite India never signing the NPT. But here's what India gave in return. This is crucial. India agreed to separate its civilian and military nuclear facilities, place civilian ones under international inspection, and maintain a test moratorium. In other words, India got into the club by playing by some rules, even if not all of them. They showed willingness to operate within an international framework. Now compare that to North Korea. The UN Security Council has passed 9 major sanctions resolutions specifically demanding denuclearization, not arms control, denuclearization. North Korea isn't just in a gray zone like India, it's in a black and white zone. UN Security Council resolutions explicitly classify their nuclear program as illegal. Different legal universe, and here's the trust gap. India, despite not signing the NPT, maintained relatively normal relations, didn't conduct repeated surprise tests, and engaged constructively with IAEA. North Korea, on the other hand, expelled IAEA inspectors in 2009 and has had zero inspection access since. The IAEA literally has no complete picture of their nuclear activities. There's also a proliferation optics problem. The India exception was already controversial, that critics said it damaged the NPT. Giving North Korea the same exception would be far worse, because the message it would send to other countries, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, whoever's watching, is, if you develop nukes and wait long enough, you get accepted. Dangerous signal, So it's not really about whether North Korea has nukes. Everyone knows they do. It's about whether they're willing to operate within any international rules. And the answer so far is no. Think about this. India got treated differently because they showed willingness to play ball. North Korea keeps changing the rules of the game. That's the gap that matters. The question then becomes, is there any version of North Korea agreeing to partial rules? Some inspections? Some limits? Or is the constitutional lock-in too complete to allow flexibility? All right, so we understand what North Korea wants, but why does the US keep saying no recognition? What's actually at stake for Washington? The US has been consistent on this, publicly at least. Back in 2006, the State Department's Undersecretary for Political Affairs testified to Congress, "We do not and will not recognize North Korea as a nuclear weapons state." That's not just one administration's position. It's been repeated across Republican and Democratic administrations alike. The principle has been bipartisan, until now, maybe. Here's cost number one for the US. NPT credibility. The Non-Proliferation Treaty only works if there are consequences for building nukes in violation of it. Remove consequences? Treaty collapses. Think about it from an Iranian perspective. If the US eventually accepts North Korea's nuclear status after decades of pressure, why would Iran give up its nuclear ambitions? The precedent is damning. Cost number two. UN sanctions legitimacy. The Security Council has 9 major resolutions calling for North Korean denuclearization. If the US accepts nuclear status, those resolutions look hollow. And these sanctions are extensive. Arms embargoes, financial restrictions, oil caps, coal bans, worker repatriation. The entire architecture was built on one premise. North Korea must denuclearize. Cost number 3, and this one is the most immediate for South Korea and Japan, alliance management. Both allies have their own domestic politics around nuclear deterrence. If the US accepts North Korea's nuclear status without their agreement, some voices in Japan and South Korea will say, if the US can accommodate a nuclear North Korea threatening us, why shouldn't we get our own nukes? That's the nuclear domino fear. South Korea already has a significant domestic debate about this. Polling shows growing public support for a South Korean nuclear program. That's a real political pressure. So the US is caught between two impossible-looking options: engage and potentially legitimize the nuclear program, or don't engage and watch the nuclear program keep growing. Rock and hard place. And that's before you even factor in Russia. Kim and Putin signed a comprehensive strategic partnership in June 2024 with a mutual defense clause. North Korea's leverage has changed since 2018. North Korean troops reportedly fought in Ukraine for Russia. That's a new kind of leverage Kim has. A major power partner. He doesn't need to be desperate for a US deal anymore. So when you add it all up, the US can't recognize North Korea's nuclear status without massive costs, but not talking has costs too. There's no clean exit. That's the trap. Okay, so where does this all go? Let's talk about the actual options, because there are a few, and they lead to very different futures. Option 1. Stand firm on the denuclearization principle. Keep sanctions, refuse talks on nuclear terms. The upside? Preserves the NPT, keeps allies reassured. The downside of option 1? Time is working against you. Every year without talks, North Korea's nuclear program gets bigger, better, and harder to reverse. Cypri estimates keep going up. Option 2, and this is what Trump seems to be leaning toward: talk without preconditions. Don't make denuclearization the entry ticket. Just sit down, start talking about something. The idea here is risk reduction first. Hotlines to prevent accidents, agreements to avoid miscalculation, maybe a test moratorium. Small steps, not big leaps. Practical, not perfect. This is actually something the Biden administration explored, and Trump's team seems to want too, just without the same diplomatic framing. The substance might be closer than the rhetoric. Option 3. Unofficial arms control. You don't officially recognize nuclear status, but you negotiate a freeze, a cap on warhead numbers, maybe some form of inspection. Technically still denuclearization path, but not really. The problem with option 3 is verification. How do you verify a freeze when North Korea has expelled all inspectors since 2009? The IAEA has no access. Zero baseline to measure against. Option 4 is the wildest. Full recognition, normalization, lift sanctions, accept North Korea as a nuclear state. This is what North Korea wants. The cost would be enormous. Allies would be furious. No current U.S. administration is likely to choose option 4 openly. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Doing nothing while the program grows might produce a de facto option 4 anyway. Because here's the thing about watching from the sidelines while someone builds nukes. Eventually the window to do anything closes, and you've made your choice by not making one. So the real question isn't, should the U.S. talk to North Korea? The question is, what language will that conversation be in? Will it be denuclearization language or nuclear state language? Because Kim Jong Un was pretty clear at the Ninth Party Congress. When he said we can talk, that conversation he had in mind was not how to get rid of nukes. It was how to coexist with them. So I'll leave you with this. A door is open. That's real. But the language on the other side of that door has changed. Denuclearization and coexistence with nukes are not the same destination, and the decision about which door to walk through, that's going to shape Northeast Asia, the global non-proliferation regime, and the credibility of U.S. alliances for a generation. Here's what I want you to think about after watching this. If you were in the room, what would you do? Talk and risk legitimizing nukes? Or hold the line and watch the arsenal grow? There's no clean answer. And honestly, anyone who tells you there is either selling something or hasn't thought hard enough about it. This one is genuinely hard. That's a wrap for today. The door is open. But before you walk through it, make sure you know what's written on the handle. Stay curious, stay informed. See you next time.